I'm Ryan.
And I'm Julia.
And together we are functionally literate. And we are not on air.
I turned the light on already.
Damn it.
And we are on air.
We are functionally literate, and we are on air.
Both of those things are true.
Today, we are discussing the Obelisk Gate. That is book 2 of the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin. We are discussing today chapters 13 through 15. Special thanks to Vidwest Studios for allowing us to record in your space and providing all of our equipment. Thank you, Jake Weller, for our theme music, intro and outro. Yeah. Check out his album, Wasting Time. It's super dope. Have you listened to it yet, Julia?
Yes, you've already asked me this.
And I'm going to keep asking you this.
I have. Because remember, I was telling you, like, which ones I liked.
Yeah, and they're pretty dope songs.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting anything? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Julia, for being here.
Thanks, Ryan, for having me.
Yeah. So let's get into chapter 13 of this book.
Yeah.
Or, wait, hold on.
Chapter 12.
13.
12.
13.
I think it's 12.
It's definitely not.
Oh, is it really not? It is 13.
Maybe we should review
you're right. You're right.
Maybe we should review what we've discussed so far.
I know.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been that long, but it's been like a month, maybe.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah.
So what do we remember about what's happened recently?
The big thing that I remember is Nassun turned that boy to stone.
Yes, he
And she
sure
cared,
did.
but she didn't care that much. Well, I think that's a spoiler, actually. Never mind.
She did care. She was actually pretty devastated. And there was another thing where Shafa, like, threatened her father.
Right.
And now she is living,
at New Moon.
At Found Moon.
Found Moon, not New Moon.
Yeah. Also, we had a chapter where, a little chapter where Shafa was the point of view character. And he,
having nightmares.
He was, we learned a little bit about Shafa through his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that, like, he is determined to keep Nassun safe, even though, Evil Earth wants him to, kill her and everyone like her. Yeah.
He's fighting the urge.
He is fighting the urge. Yeah. Now let's get into chapter 13.
You amid relics. You teach Grits how to push rocks. Tonkee succumbs to hubris, and thus her arm is slain.
So, this chapter has 2 or 3 parts, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
It starts with us, with Asun. We are Asun. It starts with us teaching the children origins in Castrima, how to control their orogeny.
And they don't love us.
No, they're not thrilled because we decide to do fast and dirty teaching where it's like, hey, we're gonna teach you how the fuck to do a tight close-up Taurus, we're like, okay, do exactly what I'm doing with my Taurus. And like, we learn a lot about the kids. Like, some of them are terrified, as they should be. Some of them are just like dumb and just stand there. Like, even when the Taurus gets like startlingly too close, it's like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember this, that there was a moment where one of the kids nearly harmed one of the other kids, and then we used our orogeny to, like, throw him down, like, a gust of wind or something, and then, like, we got in his face, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically we kind of beat these kids up with orogeny until they knew how to do it properly.
This is like how we learned, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
like how
kind
we
of.
taught our daughter.
Well, kind of. It's a little bit different than both of those things.
It's more rushed.
It's much more rushed. Like, there's a moment where we are lamenting the fact that, like, we can't teach them any of the theory. We can't explain to them why we're doing it this way. The important thing is just that they know how to do it. So that way they don't hurt themselves or hurt anybody else, especially given in one of the last few chapters, there was that whole thing. Hjarka made a bunch of snide comments to us about like erogyny. You remember? Yeah. She made comments that like were gonna bait us into like getting into an argument about whether origins are dangerous or not.
Right. Okay. I think I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, we did that, and then we go to pay Alabaster a visit. That's kind of like the second part.
And he's kind of like, you need to stop this shit. It's getting in the way
of your training.
What you need, like the important thing.
You need to learn about magic, damn it.
Yeah.
And we're like, what do you mean? And he's like, look at my arm. Right? Like do the thing where you like, microscope vision or whatever, microscope assessing. And so when we go to look into his arm, it's difficult for Asun to like focus on the magic rather than on the heat and the blood in him.
Yeah.
And she realizes, oh shit, my training has been set back by like a week.
Right. It's like fucking with her.
Yeah.
This is a weird comparison, but I'll tell you what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so like I played tennis for a while. And if you I'm sure this is similar to like other sports, but for me it was like so true with tennis. Like if I go and I play tennis with someone who is like way worse than me, I'm going to play down at first to like, play at their ability so we can get like a rally going or something. But the issue with it is it kind of sticks with you, and it like makes you, the next time you go, you play someone who's like better or at your level, or you suck. Because
you had to intentionally play worse.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I kind of like felt like maybe applicable here a little bit.
I can see the comparison because, Alabaster, he talks about how there's different ways to approach like these powers. Yeah. Right? Like the Fulcrum teaches in a specific way, which is you focus on energy transference, like moving energy like around, specifically like heat and stuff, and like kinetic energy. What you can suss out in the ground. So they keep you focused on the ground. They don't want you looking at what's in the water. They don't want you looking at what's in the sky.
Definitely not what's in the sky. But there's nothing up there for you to pay attention to.
Right, because if you pay too much attention to the sky, you could fall up into an obelisk like Nassun did.
Yeah. Nothing to see there.
Right. And, as well, he doesn't want, like, they didn't want Origins connecting to the obelisks because, as he put it, quote, I doubt I'm the first Raga who's wanted to tip the Fulcrum into a lava pit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I thought that was interesting, like, how it took Asun a second to, like, realize, like, that's why, like, it took her a moment. And then she realized, and she's like, oh, right, sure. And then he's like, he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We learn a little bit more about, like, the three factions that's going on. And so, like, I feel like this chapter kind of, like put it all into focus, if that makes sense, right?
What do you mean?
Well, so, like, the three factions are the people who want the status quo.
Right.
The Guardians.
Right.
I got a quote here. Ragas made safe and useful, stills doing all the work and thinking they run the place. Guardians actually in charge of everything. Controlling the people who can control natural disasters.
Yes.
So the Guardians are the establishment.
Yep. It's so funny that you say this because, disclosure, we're recording this after, honestly, finishing the book. We can't lie to these people.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, so we're doing 3 episodes today. We're gonna finish discussing this book today.
There was something that was later that reminds me of that quote. So we'll put a pin in that and we'll talk about it. But it's really interesting to hear because I forgot about that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then the other factions are, well, you've got Earth.
Right.
Earth wants to kill everyone, especially Origins.
Really mad.
And then you've got this other faction that isn't entirely Stone Eaters, but it's a lot of Stone Eaters. Like the way it
there's some
seems
division
to me,
within the Stone Eaters,
which wants to get the moon back into orbit so that way Earth can fucking calm his tits.
We need to stop the seasons. We got to get the Earth its baby back.
Yes. Yes.
Which I love. I don't know why, just so good.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Something else we learn in this chapter is that Alabaster got rid of his guardian by curing her. Like, he got the thing out of her.
I did not remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was interesting that we thought it was a chip. We learn here that it wasn't a chip, in this chapter, but we'll get into that. So the thing, it's something from the Earth, and it causes some guardians to change and then serve the Earth, like if they're corrupted too much. Those guardians are killed when they're discovered. And so that's what we saw happen in the 5th season when Demaya and Beanoff, they found the socket in the room without doors.
Right.
That chapter that we didn't realize the significance of when we read it, even though we really liked it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So we ask Alabaster in this conversation about the Obelisk Gate, and Alabaster explains it by reminding us of that ox analogy that he used in the first book. You remember what he said? So he was talking about how, if you have one ox in front of the other, the one leading the cart is going to get tired out, and then the one behind is going to have to take over.
Right.
But if you yoke them together side by side, then they can do more together than they could separately.
I remember this, yes.
Same concept with Origins. What he called it was parallel scaling.
Yeah.
So here he furthers that analogy by saying what the Obelisk Gate does, it's similar but on an exponential scale. Rather than a yoke, it's a matrix. And he advises us that when we tap into the gate, we use the node maintainers as a buffer, at least at first.
Yeah.
And we noticed that, he doesn't say if, he says when.
Right.
He's confident we are one day gonna fucking use the Obelisk Gate.
Right.
We are gonna tap in and use that power. He explains how, and another thing, he gets into how he caused the rifting using the Obelisk Gate, because he, as he advised us, he used the node maintainers around Humanus as a buffer to manage using the gate. And he, after the fact, he talks about how there's still several nodes to the west and the north and the south that are still functioning, which surprised him because he imagined that those nodes would have died off of neglect by now. It was really interesting, when he talked about that, because the node maintainers, you remember, they're Cesapine was separated from their mind, and they're basically lobotomized.
Right.
And so, all they know how to do is still quakes. So even though he was using them, as a part of this matrix, once the rifting actually happened, they were desperately trying to still the quakes, and that killed them.
Yeah. Because
there's no way they were going to do that.
It
just
possible.
just wasn't going to happen.
Too much.
We get a little moment of tenderness here between Alabaster and Asun. But it's quickly interrupted by Ika, who comes in here hey, listen, your buddy is in the control room, and can I kill her? Because that's where I'm at right now.
The bitch locked herself in there.
Yeah.
I loved this scene.
Yeah.
I loved it because everybody was just on their shit, their peak personality at this moment. And I thought it was so funny. I fucking love Tonkee.
Tonkee's nuts,
She
man.
cracks me up. I just see her in my mind.
It was so fucking funny when, all of us, go up to the control room, and then we're like, hey! And she's like, oh shit, it's you.
Look what I have highlighted.
Fuck, it's you.
I literally had that highlighted with the comment, I love their friendship.
Yeah.
And then she goes, hang on, don't ice anything.
So she's been fucking around with this control room for like a week. After a few days, she just locked herself in there.
It's so funny. And what she finds in there is the truth of Castrima.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, the way it was explained, Castrima can create obelisks.
Yeah, so the geode, I have it highlighted.
Yeah.
The geode is filled with not crystals, but potential obelisks.
Yeah.
So it's like making obelisks or...
has the capacity to do so.
Yeah, right. But you don't want to touch anything in there.
You don't.
You definitely don't want to touch any of this shit.
This control room, like, it really did give me like Fortress of Solitude vibes. Like,
not a clue what that is.
We talked about this before.
Right.
I was like, how the fuck do you not know what the Fortress of Solitude is? It's Superman's hideout.
And then I said something about not being nerdy enough, or like, I'm not a nerd.
Yeah. And then we showed you a picture of it, and it was this crystal fortress. This very much reminded me of that, because everything in here is made out of like crystals of some shape or form. And it's like all advanced like hologram technology. Like there was like a warning symbol that they couldn't read, but like was clearly a warning because of like, it was red and it was like a triangle or some shit. Like I was picturing, I'll tell you what I was picturing. I was picturing an upside down yield sign, only instead of saying yield in it, it was just like a red exclamation point.
Okay.
That's what I was picturing.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, you definitely don't want to touch any of this shit.
Nuh-uh.
And I love that they're like, Tonkee's like low-key the smartest person there.
Yeah, but also she has like no fucking qualms. Like, like I have a quote. I think Ika really put it best.
Yeah.
When she was like, I would rather understand nothing about this place than risk destroying it. Can you say the same?
She's like, fuck no, I want to know everything.
Yeah, like Tonkee's like, supervised visits. And she's like, nah, fuck you. And when it's clear that like Tonkee's not gonna like get her way, because let's be clear here, she totally like broke some trust.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
and then she's like, I'm not leaving, and I'm gonna make everything worse right now.
Yeah.
And she touches, so it's like rusty. There's like rusty metal. Yeah.
So there is this. I don't know if it actually was this way, but the way I pictured it when I was reading it. So there's like this platform, like this little table thing, like made out of crystal, just kind of jutting out of the ground.
Yeah.
And on the table, but I was picturing on the table is like 6 bits of something that looks like iron, kind of rusty, about the size of a thumbnail, each of them. So I was picturing them floating. Were they floating, or were they just placed on the table?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have that highlighted.
Fair enough.
I have this highlighted, which is funny.
Go ahead.
She said, they ask if did you put these here? And she's instantly furious. Yes, of course, I would enter the control core of a dead Civ artifact, find the most dangerous device in it, and immediately throw bits of rusty metal on it.
Don't be an ass, please.
I love her.
That's one of my...
literally what she says back.
I know that because that's like one of my favorite phrases to use now with high school kids. Like when they're being fucking jerks, I'm just like, don't be an ass, please.
That's amazing.
I got one kid to laugh.
Okay, I'm gonna start using that myself because that's awesome.
But so this is the thing that I find funny, right? Because there's a moment here where like, she's like, don't touch anything, and then we go to reach for one, and she's like, I said don't touch anything. What's wrong with you? And we're like, all right, we deserve that,
right?
Like there's too much of a mom and teacher in us to like argue. Like, yeah, no, that was
You're
dumb.
right. That was a great moment too. Just for a character.
But I find that so funny because here in this moment when Tonkee is panicking because she's going to be locked out of the control room, she grabs one of those fucking metal bits and runs away with it.
It's crazy.
And then she can't get very far because as soon as she grabbed the fucking thing, it went inside her.
Yeah. And this is a terrible visual that they decided to give us here.
Mm-hmm. And so the chapter ends with Nassun getting this bit of metal out of Tonkee, right? Like she can feel it embedding its energy into her body. I think it was described like tendrils. And she then makes this connection to evil Earth through this bit of metal.
Yeah.
And so she and then it's like, oh, hello, little enemy.
So fucking spooky.
Creepy.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it.
So she breaks off that connection and just goes, and she's like trying to cut the thing out, like she.
But it keeps moving fast. Yeah, you can't catch it.
She's like wielding her orogeny like scissors, and then literally cuts Tonkee's arm off.
Terrible.
So this reminded me of a couple things.
Yeah.
So the scene itself, like this bit where Tonkee grabs a thing and runs off and it goes inside her, it reminded me of the movie Evolution.
Haven't seen it.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's a dated movie, but it's really funny. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Well, so there was this. So I'm going to give you a rough premise of Evolution, right? Mm-hmm. Meteor lands on Earth. The meteor is full of alien bacteria. The alien bacteria can evolve exponentially faster than anything on Earth can. So in like a day, there's like, so like when it fell, it made a hole in the ground because there was a cave system in the ground where it landed. And so when it went through the ground and then landed in this cave system. And so like after like a day, when people go in there, there's like all this like a weird alien like stuff growing out of the ground. And then after another day, there's like bugs and plant life. And it's so weird. And so like, you know, the US military, like they take over the whole thing and quarantine it off like immediately. But then there's like these two scientists that are like, nah, fuck that. We found the fucking thing. Like we were here first. We're going to do our research. And so they sneak in and they have to like wear these like suits, right? Like, you know, like hazmat suits.
Right.
And this fucking alien bug using its like needle nose like mouth slices a hole in one of the scientist's suits and climbs in there and gets under his skin, right? And it's still like crawling around in there and like,
just like this book, literally.
The only difference is instead of trying to go for the cecipite, you know, the base of the skull, this thing was going for his nuts.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they had to do like emergency surgery to get that thing out of him. And fortunately, they got it out of him. But it was just such a funny moment because like he was in so much pain. Like they didn't have time to like deaden his nerves or anything. They had to get this thing out of him or it was going to fucking kill him. Yeah. And so then they ripped it out. And like after it was all done, he like grabs one of the scientists when it's done. And he's like, never do that to me again.
Oh my God. Oh,
so that's what the scene reminded me of.
No, totally. I could see that. Absolutely.
But the other thing it reminded me of was the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, which you've not read.
No, but it's on my TBR.
Well, so in the Mistborn series, it takes place on this planet Scadrial. Right? And so on Scadrial, their magic system, it all revolves around metal. So when you are a Mistborn, you can consume certain types of metals and then like burn them inside you to activate your powers, right?
Weird.
So like there's one metal that when you use it, you can push other metals. There's another metal that when you consume it, you can pull metals to you. There's one metal that can flare up your emotions like really strongly. And it can be like whatever emotion you want it to be. Like you could flare up lust in someone or rage or sadness, whatever. You can take like whatever emotion you want to flare up that's like already in them. You can like just increase it to a powerful extreme or not. You could like be subtle about it, which most people that have that power can. Well, anyways, my point is, there was one metal that when you put too much of it in someone, it would give one of the gods of that world the ability to take over you and control you.
Interesting.
So this reminded me of that.
Yeah,
because when I read this chapter, I was like, that is absolutely what's in the Guardians.
Wow.
That is absolutely what is happening here.
It's a piece of
Earth.
Yeah.
It's a piece of this god
Evil
that is
Earth.
evil Earth. Yeah.
Wow. God, that's so fucking genius. How do you think of this shit? Like,
I don't know, man. It's really fucking cool though.
Yeah, it is really fucking cool.
But yeah, no, so that's the chapter ends with us remembering what Earth said to us, like, hello little enemy.
Hate it.
No end blurb, just hello little enemy.
Yeah.
Interlude. Hoa explains where he has been. So yeah, Hoa's a monster.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how he described himself.
He's being harsh.
He is being harsh on himself. But also, he did totally murder a bunch of people.
Yes, but... No, just kidding. I don't remember that much about this.
Okay, so basically, I took notes. Basically, Hoa gets into like how powerful he is, how he's not a child, even though we look like one. Like Alabaster tried to explain this to you, but you didn't understand. I'm an old, powerful monster, is basically what he's like.
And that people should fear me.
Yeah, and so he describes Castrima as like this egg that motes are feeding on. The motes being stone eaters. So he kills some stone eaters, and he scares off some other stone eaters. Like, the one that was, like, attached to Yika, specifically, he talks about killing.
Right.
Like, fuck her. She was the one with, like, red hair, I believe.
The one, ruby hair, yeah.
Yeah, the one with ruby hair. And so then the other Stone Eaters warn him, the ones that he intimidates away, they warn him there is another Stone Eater, just as old and powerful as him.
And he'd kill her.
With an opposing goal that would totally kill her, yeah. And that's basically the interlude. It kind of made me sad reading it because like I get it now. I get why in the first book he was sad after that Kirkusa thing, you know, because like then we knew what he was. Like we understood that like he wasn't like just a little boy anymore.
He liked to play pretend.
Yeah. And so this interlude really drove home like, and now it makes me sad because it's like, yeah, you're not that little boy. You're like a fucking monster.
Literally.
God damn it.
It's a bummer, but at the end of the day, though, like, do you think... I mean, he's a monster for the shit that he's done, but, like, ultimately...
Do I think he's justified?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, like...
It's hard to say, though. Like, I'm confused by some stuff, but I can't...
Like what? Well, you can't get into it because...
I don't think I can get into it yet.
Maybe we should just do like an episode at a time so we can like speculate more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we should do next time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay.
Well, that's fine.
Anyway, he says at the end of this one day, I hope you will forgive me.
Yeah.
I forgive you, Hoa.
I don't know if I do.
I'm a very forgiving person.
You are.
So I forgive.
You forgive Hoa for like all the shit he's done. Okay. I'm not sure because like his intentions seem to be like in alignment with what Antimony wants, but he hasn't explicitly said what he wants.
Right.
You know? But yeah, so that's the interlude.
Yep.
And
I love this book.
It's really good.
Chapter 14. You're invited. Castrima is threatened by war and division. Hoa grows up.
So as always, this chapter has like 2 parts, right? Like that's something that I think is interesting about Jemison's writing is It's like every chapter she writes, it's always like, you know, the first half is about something and then the second half is like kind of about something else, but the theme still that like she's trying to get across in that chapter still like arcs across the whole thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, totally.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
So in this chapter, 6 months pass, right? And that's kind of what the first part of the chapter is about, is like what happens in that 6 months is like briefly discussed here.
Right.
This episode is brought to you by the Greg Bush for House District 50 campaign. Greg Bush is a registered nurse, nurse's advocate, proud union member, husband, and father who has called Columbia home for 18 years this May. I know him from church and co-starred with his spouse in a Maplewood Barn production last year, one that Julia was actually in.
Yeah, and she's wonderful.
She played
Tituba.
That's right. And we played Reverend Hale, and you played
Elizabeth Proctor.
Yeah.
Goody Proctor.
Yeah. Well, now he is running for House District 50, which is in Southern Columbia. He worked his way up the ranks at MU Healthcare and put himself through school to become a registered nurse after starting as a janitor in 2006. Greg is running as an advocate for patients and nurses since he's been on the front lines of watching the outcome of extremist politicians in Jeff City. He has 3 children, 1 graduate with 2 children still in Columbia Public Schools. He'll be a fierce advocate for public education in Columbia. As a member of a working family, he already has the endorsement of 2 of the largest unions in Missouri since he's a union member and has been for nearly a decade.
Hell yeah, we love unions.
We do love unions. Check him out at Greg Bush for House District 50 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider sending a little money his way via his Act Blue.
Give him money and vote for him.
Please vote for him.
Yeah.
If, you know, assuming you're in House District 50. If you can't vote for him, please consider donating money to his Act Blue. I will have his Act Blue link in the episode description.
Don't be cheap.
Back to the show. So what about this 6 months stood out to you?
Well, I think that we are starting to take our learning of how to use the Obelisk Gate or like dial into it a little bit more serious, because we're like, okay, we can't be teaching anymore. We kind of pass that off.
We passed that off to another guy, and I thought that part was funny because the kids were like, he's not as mean, but like we're not learning as much.
He's nice, but a dummy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, that, you know, we also see Alabaster, who is just like, that man is crumbling.
He loses his legs.
He's literally crumbling.
Yeah. So he, as I recall, he got an infection in his legs.
Right.
And so to like deal with that, he just like stoned his legs.
Oh my God. And
then of course, at some point, like, I don't remember if the book brought it up, but like at some point during this, like, Antimony ate his fucking legs.
I know.
Like,
what the fuck, NK? What are you? It's so good. But yeah, that did happen, and you know, we are making some money moves when it comes to like figuring out how to work with the obelisk.
Work with like magic and stuff.
But we don't have, like, you can feel kind of time closing in and like some sort of pressure, like, because you see Alabaster like falling apart, you're like, he's gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
I need to learn this shit.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of suspense from that.
A little bit. But then also the book talks about some budding relationships.
Oh, the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're in love.
So there's 2.
Yeah.
So there's us and Lerna, and then there's Hyarka and Tonkee. So which one did you like more?
Which one do you think I liked more?
The gay one.
Yeah, of course I did. Oh my god. That, what an actual gem to get. And I mean, because Tonkee is like probably my favorite character in this entire series.
Yeah, sure.
Which is like hard to pick because I love them all.
She is a character.
I love her.
Yeah.
I fucking love her.
Yeah.
I love that she is like I don't want to say like timid, but she's like, she doesn't like rush into this because she's like, why does this person like me? Like,
she has a very long view approach to life.
Yeah.
In general, right? Like, she literally has been following Nassun around for decades.
Yeah.
Right? Like, while she's been like researching obelisks, she's also been just like keeping a very close eye on us, which by the way, I don't think is something Nassun is like put a lot of thought into.
Right.
Like the fact that this woman
has based her entire life around us.
And the events of the socket.
Yeah.
The socket room.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird ass secret room.
Yeah.
Like, that was a life-changing event for Tonkee in a much more direct way than I think for us. Like we had to get our first ring as a result. Like, Demaya, she had to like become cyanide or die. Right. And but like outside of that, like, you know, I mean, you know what the Fulcrum's like. They kept that shit hush hush. Like, she was like, that was not something that was ever discussed or a part of her life again after that. So like, even though it did affect her life, she didn't know how it affected her life. Not really. And yeah, like, Tonkee, like, I mean, like, to be able to embrace your transness, abandon becoming a leader, and like go for a completely different social class, be like, no, I want to go to 7th University.
Yeah.
I want to like fucking be a scientist. Cause that, I mean, like, at the end of the day, that's basically what it was. Cause like, I don't think she bought into the education the way other mests did, right? Because she's not any one thing. Like, the main thing she is an archaeologist. She's like looking at all these dead civ ruins all the fucking time.
She's decided to study and embrace who she is.
Yeah.
And find love.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, not that she wanted to find love.
Right.
Like,
love happened.
Like, Hjarka did the wooing. I think that it's really funny that Hjarka wooed Tonkee with, like, her attempts to woo, it was dead animals and books. That was her seduction technique.
I love that. And it worked.
It worked because I just love that bit where it's like, oh, you're just like finding books with a lot of syllables. So like, big words, yes, big words, Tonkee likey. But it did work because
Tonkee's
like eventually
a simple girl.
Yeah,
she's just like us.
Even though she claims otherwise.
Right.
Because it's not long before they start fucking.
Yeah.
And it's like, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
And I'll say too, I love the Lerna.
Yeah.
Like, this little arc for them, because we go from this relationship of, you know, doctor and, you know, little relationship. He's always known who she is.
Yeah.
To, who the fuck are you? You killed all these people. You destroyed an entire comm. To forgiveness.
Because I think she really tugged, Nassun, tugged on one of Lerna's values. I mean, he's a doctor, right? And so then to see this woman who, yes, in rage, destroyed his home comm. To see this woman arguing for Tonkee's life, like hardcore arguing for Tonkee's life.
Yeah.
Who, she has her arm back. Like, they were able to reattach it surgically, which, I mean, makes sense because it was like, it was Like
a clean cut?
A very clean cut. It was like if you stuck your arm in what was that French device that they used to cut off people's heads?
A guillotine?
Yeah, it's like it's like if she used a fucking guillotine on the arm. It was a very clean cut. Yeah. So yeah, they were able to surgically reattach it, although her dexterity in that hand is no longer what it was, which makes sense. And she just fucking bitches at us about it. Yeah. And then we're like, shut the fuck up, you idiot.
You were gonna die.
You were going to fucking die. The only reason that fucking happened was because you went grabbing fucking metal that you told us not to grab. You dickhead.
Yeah, literally. Oh my god, their relationship is just magic. Yeah. Like, it's so good.
It is really good, yeah.
And again, like, I just have to give, like, props because, like, I think a fear of mine that has, like, kept me from reading, like, high fantasy or, like, going into some of these genres, like, is, like, the fear of losing the relationship aspect that,
I get that.
Like, feeling like it's going to be so heavy on the world building and this, and I'm going to be confused the entire fucking time and not know what's going on. But, like, NK cares so much about these characters, and, like, she really puts so much into it.
It's all character driven.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I fucking love that, because I love people, so.
So the thing I liked about the whole thing with Lorna and Asun is, so it's not I like that he warms to her because she's like, hey, I want to, save this person's life.
She's fighting for her friend.
She's fighting for her friend. She's not like, okay, fine, whatever. So, like, I think that that's why it's nice that he warmed up. But I like that it's not like they just start fucking.
Right.
They
just
don't.
Out of proximity or whatever.
He makes her an offer after, like, Asun comes to him in tears, like she just needs a shoulder to cry on at some point. And so, yeah, he's like, hey, do you wanna? And like, and so as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why Asun went to him in tears in the first place is because some fucking breeder was like, hey.
Yeah, literally. It was like, you could probably still have a baby.
Yeah, no.
You're young.
I found that whole bit amusing because it's like, oh, you're only 43 and you bore 3 children? Powerful origins, no less. Ooh. Like,
let's do it again.
Yeah. And I, like, he's just like, oh, hey, wow, fuck me now, and, we turn him away. And then, like, while that was funny, then it immediately got sad because that whole thing triggered Asun.
Absolutely.
The whole thing triggered her because she was just thinking about, Koru, she was thinking about her last kid. And it's like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And it's just like, man, like, she's only got 1 kid alive. And she doesn't even know if she's alive.
No.
And well, anyways, so I really liked all of that, and that this whole thing is budding with them.
Yeah,
though yes, I do find Hyarka and Lerna's budding relationship much more.
Hyarka and Tonkee.
What did I say?
Hyarka and Lerna's relationship.
God damn it! There's so many names.
Yeah.
Hyarka and Tonkee's relationship much more amusing.
Yeah, they're both, but it's great. It's nice. I like that we get a little bit of romance. That I love the romance novels. So
yeah, and so yeah, and we haven't even talked about the second part of this chapter yet,
right? Which is like the big-ish,
the big thing, which is this gray man of a stone eater just shows up and is holding Hoa's arm and fucking threatens all of Castrima, like, hey,
like, join us.
But oh yeah, no Ragas though.
Yeah.
Which, like, fuck you, man. Fuck
right.
You. Like,
especially in a comm that has learned, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but accepts Origin, like,
yeah,
the fuck, they're gonna try to add this division, and they're in the middle of a season, so I'm sure there's some sort of tension already there. So we, cut his arm off.
Yeah, we do. Which I mean, he doesn't react to that, which I mean, he's a Stone Eater, so like he's not really gonna react to that. Like they don't
big whoop.
like they don't have like facial expressions.
Yeah.
They make one facial expression and stick with it.
I hate that. I want to say I hate it.
Well, but you know, the interesting thing about that though is like other people prefer that because when they do move their faces, it looks terrifying.
They're trying so hard to be human.
But yeah, so like we cut his hand off and then like he using magic reattaches it and like we see him use the magic with our new magic vision.
Love it.
And yeah, and then he leaves and so Ika just sits on a stump at this point and argues with the comp like about what to do. And she just keeps arguing, but we leave immediately.
Yeah.
We pick up Hoa's fucking heavy ass arm and haul that shit home. And we find Hoa in pieces, and it's so fucking sad. And then he's like crawling to his magic rocks. He's like, I need my rocks. I need them. and we put the rocks in his mouth.
Oh, we feed him the rocks.
We feed him the rocks.
And then he's no longer a goo goo gaga baby.
No, he turns into like a Stone Eater. Or some shit. Like
not just any Stone Eater.
Yeah.
The Stone Eater from the OG, like, what was it?
From Alia.
Yeah, but the Garnet.
Yeah, so he was the Stone Eater
Who looked at us.
He was the Stone Eater in the Obelisk that we surfaced from Alia, and the one that like right before it exploded, we connected with him, and we were like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Yes, thank you for asking."
Oh my god!
And then like it exploded.
Full circle moment. Wow.
But I want to talk about this end blurb, though.
Okay.
So I have an excerpt for you. Here you go.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Our position is thoroughly identified with the physical integrity of the stillness, for the obvious interest of long-term survival. Maintenance of this land is peculiarly dependent upon seismic equilibrium, and by an imperious law of nature, none but the orogenic can establish such. A blow at their bondage is a blow at the very planet. We rule, therefore, that though they bear some resemblance to we of good and wholesome lineage, and though they must be managed with kind hand to the benefit of both bond and free, any degree of orogenic ability must be assumed to negate its corresponding personhood. They are rightfully to be held and regarded as an inferior and dependent species. The second Humanist Lore Council's declaration on the rights of orogenically afflicted. You're testing my dyslexia.
I am so sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. It was great. That was a good exercise. Wow.
I'm glad you committed to that. I fucking am enraged.
Yeah. Wow.
By that fucking ruling. So, because they're so much more powerful than you, they should be subservient to you. They're not human, therefore they are lesser. Fuck them, I guess. Fucking hate that. That's
oh my god.
Like the logic is not sound. They are so important, so therefore you're obviously superior?
Right.
Like, how the fuck do you figure that?
It's twisted.
It's so fucking twisted.
It's crazy, and it's like we've talked about it so many times, but like the reflection of our reality in life to this,
because that is how people have behaved in the past. Like, there's this fucking double think that people can develop to justify their actions, because none of us like to think of ourselves as evil people, right? And so the fucking crazy shit we will do in our minds to justify that we're good people, and that like these other people are lesser than us. It is insane that we have the ability to lie to ourselves like that.
I know.
Truly believe crazy shit like that.
It's like, it's the mom mentality too that you see, like these people who just are just so threatened by anybody who's different. And it's, I mean, of course, yes, it's like these people are more powerful, but at the end of the day, what they are is different. And so that is part of the perceived threat, you know? Yeah. It's just crazy. Oh my God.
Anyways, I like your lore, N.K. Jemisin.
You're a fucking genius. Yeah. A fucking genius. Oh my God.
Chapter 15, Nassun, in Rejection. How the daughter learned what the fulcrum did to you. So this is a chapter where Nassun fucking turns an entire little community into stone.
Oh my God.
And also another conversation about generational trauma.
Oh, great. Let's tap in. You know I'm always ready for that.
Well,
yeah.
This whole chapter, like, they went to the South Antarctic's fulcrum, right? Like, for whatever reason, Shafa and one of the other guardians and Nassun, the three of them go to this Antarctic's fulcrum. Yeah. I guess the whole purpose being to murder them, because like that, like when they get there, Shafa's straight up like, why didn't you kill yourselves? That's what you're supposed to do.
Why are you alive right now?
Yeah, why are you here? And it's like, you know you're supposed to do that when seasonal law goes into effect. And they're like, not everyone can agree around here that seasonal law has gone into effect. Yeah. And also, the only reason that we're supposed to do that is because, in theory, we're a drain on resources. And
we're the only ones here.
And no. But what they say is we actually have provided services for everyone around us. Right. And I don't think anybody around us would say that we're a drain on resources. And then also...
They're also like, where's the Guardians, huh?
Yeah. Also, they're like, where's the Guardians? And they fucking lie through their teeth. and Nassun, like, just mouth open, like, what? Really? And Shafa just is not fucking dealing with this. He's like, okay. Punches through this lady's skull.
Just when you think... Sometimes I think, oh, Shafak is going to redeem himself. I am a fool.
You're a fool.
I'm the number one fool.
He's so sweet, isn't he?
I'm like, damn, I'm really that naive. Wow. Yeah. I'm always learning a lesson.
So yeah, they have this cool fight in there. Yeah. Nassun gets her orogeny taken away from her, which scares the shit out of her. Right. But then, you know, like, Shafa and this other one, like, fucking kill them immediately. And then Shafa's like, go out to the trellis! And so she goes out to the trellis. Yeah. And so she wanders out to this trellis, and then there's this kid who has no idea what the fuck's going on. Yeah, she's
like, what's up? Are you the new girl?
Are you the new grit? And then she's like, what the fuck's a grit?
And then also what's interesting is she said, did they break your hand yet?
Yeah, that's the whole fucking thing, right? And so I thought the way this was written was really interesting, right? Because at first Nassun is fine, but then was it a girl?
Yeah, it was
this
a girl.
This girl asks Nassun, did they break your hand yet? And the way she reacted to that, I thought was so realistic to real life. Yes. Like, how often have you heard something fucked up in a conversation and then you kind of disassociate and like the conversation just kind of ends, and then you wander off and like really think through the fucked up thing you just heard.
And she's saying, this fulcrum is why her mother broke her hand.
Why mommy doesn't love her.
This is why her mother never loved her. Ugh. It's why her father doesn't love her. It's why her brother's dead. Yeah. Yeah. And the fulcrum's fucking wrong. Yeah. And she doesn't realize that, like, Shafa is, like, really a part of, like, an extension.
Shafa fucking broke mommy's hand. mommy broke her hand. Like, I
Mhm.
wonder if she would love this man at all if she knew the historical truth of the matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he knows who she is now. He
Right.
realizes, like, oh shit, this is the girl's daughter.
Yeah.
You know?
And it makes him love her more and care about her more. Because he's fucking obsessed with her.
But then at the same time, though, Shafa has changed.
Yeah.
He is not...
He's not the same.
The man who broke Demaya's hand is not the man that is taking care of Demaya's daughter.
Okay, but I'm confused.
Yeah, what are you confused about?
I'm confused about, like, what's his bit here? Like, what is his deal? What's his fucking deal? Because he's changed.
Yeah.
But he's, like, goes to the Fulcrum or this other,
This other place, Jeopardy.
Right. And when I feel like he has changed about how he views Origin, at the same time, I'm like, then why do you think they all need to kill themselves? Like, I'm confused at what this man's getting at.
He did in an earlier chapter say that he feels the Fulcrum's mandate is wrong.
Then why does he want them all dead?
I think because they are from the Fulcrum. So I think his reasoning, it probably lines up in some way, shape, or form with Nassun's reasoning for turning them all to fucking stone.
Because she's like, fuck this institution, you're all gonna die.
Yeah, because the way, when she taps into that obelisk, the way it described how she was able to do it, she tapped into the magic of the shared connection everyone at the Antarctic Fulcrum shared.
Right.
The shared connection being the culture of the Fulcrum, I think.
The network.
Yeah, like that, those bonds.
Yeah.
It's a very unique bond. And so she was able to tap into that, turn them all into stone, not the people she came with.
And she mentions, too, that connecting with the obelisk was much easier this time. Mm-hmm. Partly because it was not a surprise, and partly because she is growing used to the sudden advent of strangeness in her life.
I mean, yeah.
And the trick is to let yourself fall into it.
So this is one of those things that I think is interesting, and I think is true of children in general. Mm-hmm. Like, children are better able to adapt to things than adults are.
Right.
Not well, mind you, because often when they adapt, they develop things that don't serve them well when they grow up. They develop tendencies that don't really...
Trauma responses.
Yeah. Yeah, like they handled the trauma really well in the moment, but then they grow up into adults and not so much.
Yeah, yep. It was a good chapter, but it was also like...
Did it get to you?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm just like, fuck this. Like, it goes back to the generational trauma. It goes back to, like, her anger at the institution.
Yeah.
It's like, you can, like, if you have experienced something like this in your life, you feel that. You're like, the anger at not only, like, maybe your parents, but your parents' parents and their parents' parents. You're like, fuck all of that.
Yeah. When I put thought into it, I can certainly see where the generational trauma affected how I was raised.
Yeah.
Because, like, my dad was never abusive, but the way he raised me was in direct response to abuses he suffered.
Right.
Right?
Well, because we all have our coping mechanisms of how we deal with abuse that we've experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he wasn't perfect. I feel like he did adapt to it well.
Yeah.
Like, he was something that I think a lot of boomers really struggle with, right? Like, so, like, this is not really about the book at all. This is just something that I was thinking about my father, which was that he broke, you know how, like, we now, like, are now trying to heal those generational traumas.
Right.
I think in his own way, even though he was a boomer, mind you, he also did that. Like, there was a lot of, the stuff he suffered, he could have just as easily been a guy like Jija.
Right.
You know? He could have just as easily gone down a path like that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That you, and it's like, you want to say that you have an option, and I think that you do to some extent.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating how people cope with these things.
Mm-hmm.
And if your dad was anything like you, it makes sense why he made the choices that he made.
I mean, I would say I'm a little version of my father.
Yeah.
A much more, less prejudiced version, I think.
Okay.
I will say.
And that's our job, you know?
Yeah.
To do better than our parents and learn and...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, this book.
It's very
this
good.
Trilogy
love this,
so
love this
good.
book. But yeah, so that's basically chapter 15. Oh, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
A stone eater comes to Nassun, and she names him Steel. And Steel is like, hey, I can teach you how to, like, help Shafa.
Right.
Right? Because, like, another really great moment that kind of gave me chills. That moment where, like, he numbed the pain, like, in Shafa.
Yes.
And he's sleeping. And he just sighs contentedly and falls into deeper sleep. I was like, that is fucking beautiful.
Yes. I loved that. And I'm wondering, I'm hoping I'm not giving anything away, so we can cut this end if we need to.
Okay.
But
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And we can't talk about it right now.
Okay. And we'll talk about that later.
I've cut that out. The question Julia just asked me, cut that out.
Okay.
Because
we'll remember that.
You know what? We finished the book. You know, like limitations of recording. This is a hobby. We can't do this every weekend.
Right.
Much as we'd like to, we can't do that. It would be too much of a commitment at this point in our lives.
Yeah.
So we also, at the end, we have an end blurb.
Ooh, okay.
So this is from the Journal of Journeywoman Fogrid Innovator Humanus. Archives of the Genier Licensure, Equatorial East. These things have been down here for an age of the world. Foolish to call them bones. They go to powder when we touch them. But stranger than the bones are the murals. Plants I've never seen, something that might be a language, but it just looks like shapes and wiggling. And one, a great round white thing amid the stars hanging over a landscape. Eerie. I didn't like it. I had the black jacket crumble the mural away.
Wonder what that could be.
She fucking saw a mural of the moon and didn't like it and told her slave to destroy it.
She's like, that's eerie. Creepy.
That just made me so fucking mad when I read that and, like, I thought about it. I was like, she saw a picture of the moon and ripped it up. That's what happened. It made me so fucking mad.
Fucking freak.
But yeah, we're gonna move on to the next episode now. So yeah, that was chapters 13 through 15. We are in 2 weeks, and also, like, as soon as we hit stop record, we are going to cover chapters what?
17?
No.
16.
Yeah.
16
through 18.
Through 18, and then 18 through end.
Yeah.
Not different episodes.
So yeah, interesting fact. The last episode will be 2 interludes and 2 chapters.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I thought that was interesting. Bye.
Bye.